Direct from Foxboro, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxboro Cable Access. It's Foxboro Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another fantastic episode of Foxboro Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxboro truly the gem of Norfolk County. Now, as we know, not every person or event is in Foxboro, but part of our local things that make us a wonderful place to live is that we're so close to Boston and Providence and Springfield and Worcester, and in fact all of New England, that really puts us in the hub of the universe. So that being said, let's have a little trip, shall we, to the hub, Boston, and talk about one of those events that is quickly becoming an annual go-to thing. And of course, I'm talking about Boston GreenFest. It will be held in 2019 on August 16th through the 18th. That's August 16th through the 18th, 2019. And it'll be held on the Rosemary Kennedy Greenway, where the Southeast Expressway used to be. It's now a beautiful space. There's art displays, there's chairs, there's picnicking, it's just really fun. There's even a carousel. So in August of 2019, there's going to be a celebration. That celebration is going to be about making for a greener place, a greener world, and that is why I'm being joined by my three new friends here who are from the Foundation for a Green Future. Across me, I'd like to welcome Beverly Spence. Thank you so much for joining us. You're on the board of directors of Foundation for a Green Future.
Yep, and I'm the secretary of the foundation and also the volunteer coordinator for the Boston GreenFest event.
The volunteer coordinator. So if we wanted to volunteer and be part of it but didn't want to pay the admission fee, you would be the one that we want to talk to.
Myself, yes.
All right, so everybody remember her face. She's the one that we're going to be talking to in a little bit. I'm also joined on my right, your left, by Shimon Warden. Thank you so much for being part of us. And you are
I'm the treasurer.
You're the treasurer. So this is a nonprofit organization.
Yes, sir.
So you are the treasurer of the nonprofit organization, Foundation for a Green Future.
Yes, and it's always a fun time. We try our best to make it as inclusive as possible.
Okay.
And GreenFest is actually free for everyone to attend.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
So if I volunteer, I can feel real good about it because it's a free event.
It's a free event. That's
All right.
Correct.
So it's a good thing you're here as a treasurer because we always focus on the treasurer of Foxboro Cable Access, so we always focus on that financial piece. Good for you. All right. I feel a kindred friendship here. We're going to go places in less than 25 minutes, shall we? All right, excellent. And of course, I'm joined on my left, your right, by Dr. Karen Weber. Thank you so much for being with us, and you are the president.
Yes, I am an
Fantastic.
Executive Director, however you want.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, Madam Executive Director. So why don't you tell us first about what the Foundation for a Green Future is, and then we can get into the Boston Fest, shall we?
That sounds great.
So tell us about the Foundation.
The foundation was begun primarily as a way to have help people think about bringing nature back into their lives and into our urban space.
Okay.
Sort of top down, from green roofs, living walls, green infrastructure, and greening our lives, thinking about the stewardship of the planet, being just conscious of our actions, our decisions on a daily basis, and try to make them a little bit more in accord with our environment. You know,
it's interesting you say that it's a very worthy goal, and here in Foxboro, we say, we don't need that because 34% of our community is dedicated green space, state forests, that sort of thing where, it's protected conservation lands, so we don't have to worry about that. But that's not true because our actions are more impactful than just the space that we live in. Plastic bags, garbage,
energy
efficiency. And so is that what the foundation is targeting, or is it a bigger picture than even that?
It's probably a bigger picture than that, but it's both micro and macro.
Okay.
So we're looking at things that each individual family and person can do, but then bring it out to the schools, to businesses, to our government, to policy that can generate a much bigger impact. I know we were just talking about recycling and how important it is for each person to think about recycling. Each person, we tend to want to buy a lot of bottled water, and yet the water in Massachusetts overall is very high quality, and there's no need to spend extra dollars on plastic bottles that actually take more water to produce that plastic than the water in the bottle.
Does it really?
That's right, 4 times as much.
That's a,
Not to mention it uses a lot of petrol products. So you
Right.
need the plastic that's a petrol product as well as the fuel to deliver that. So
And
it's
create it.
one of the most wasteful products on the planet.
so for all you people who think you're doing the right thing by drinking water, well,
From a plastic bottle.
well, yeah, but you know, it's the reality. In fact, I think Coca-Cola
Get your
makes
mug.
more. Get your mug. I always have my mug, but Coca-Cola makes more money off their water products and sales now than they do off of their soda sales. Is that not correct? I believe that I read
It's
that.
possible.
And so with that, who would have thought, for those of us who are above a certain age, who would have thought 20 years ago that, you know, we would be spending so much money on buying water because water comes out of the bubbler, right? But anyway, it is what it is. And so here we are in the year 2018, and there's a new awareness, maybe a global awareness that's getting some pushback, granted, but I know that Mansfield, our neighboring community, just as south of us, passed a bylaw, and they just implemented last month an initiative where there's no more plastic bags being distributed, and the local Girl Scout troop there is very much a strong advocate of eliminating plastic straws from the consumer stream. So, in fact, the theater up here, we bought into that, and we are now a paper straw only facility. So it's that sort of thing where on the micro level that different people, different communities can try to make a difference, but I'm sure that's not enough.
So there's a lot of cool things. So what we like is we think about there's policy things you can do. There's also business things you can do. So there's a company, I believe they're out in New York, and I forget their name, but I love their idea.
Well, we don't want to give them a shout out because they didn't pay us any royalties.
Yeah, they haven't given us any
Good for
money.
you.
Yeah.
I'm sure
You
Shimon-
donate to the foundation, I will say your
Shimon
name.
knows everything. So.
They took corn waste,
Okay.
corn husk.
Sure.
They use a fungus, and that fungus, when it's breaking down the corn husk, they mold it, and now you have the ability to ship. So that corrugated, is it corrugated
I
cardboard?
believe I've heard this. In
Yeah,
fact, yes.
It's it's very wasteful, but you need things to protect your television and your computer or whatever you're shipping.
But when you think about it, that's where so much, I don't say anger, but you know how we get frustrated, we're peeling off and we're having to cut the plastic just to get at the simple battery, or we can't open up the this and that because there's a plastic wrap around a safety seal around, and you know, much of it of course is
Packaging.
necessary, but the packaging sometimes seems so wasteful that these alternative opportunities, you know, make sense in a green world. Unfortunately, there's that whole economic
From a marketing
reality.
perspective, packaging works to sell stuff. There are people that have it experienced, and when they open up packaging, they want to see the lace and the paper and the colors and the scents. And your packaging is communicating that experience. So can you still, you know, it might damage your brand to do that, but you could do it in a way you say, well, I
more
want
respectful.
that's more respectful.
But of course, you can market your brand also that way.
Right.
As
Yeah.
being, and I suppose that is where we now come to, you know, as these environmental issues with the plastic soda, the six-pack holders getting tangled around the turtle's neck and the straw getting shoved up the turtle's nose, and that sort of thing where it causes real damage and pain and suffering to animals. And there was a whale that on the endangered species list that was that washed ashore, and when they opened up, it had 300 pounds of plastics in
plastic,
its stomach.
right.
Yes. So that was a recent one that we all
Right,
heard about.
right.
And so that's a reality.
But
and
that's
that,
what
and then
actually, that's what all fish are eating right now.
well, exactly.
And we're
that's-
eating the fish.
Yeah.
So we are eating that
I
plastic.
was just gonna say, it just so happens that we found one whale and they opened it up, but one whale is not just running around eating up all the plastic.
And it's
everywhere.
microplastics now that it's not like they're eating, so we don't want people to think they're just eating, you know, large pieces of plastic. Plastics are breaking down. We have a lot of very fine microfibers of plastic that are getting into the ocean.
Which is
even
even
from our
scarier.
washing machines.
Really?
When we wash our clothes that are made with these, you know, our clothes are made with nylons and polyesters, and those are getting in. But we were just talking about this earlier, what's really important to recognize, and this is where that land and sea theme comes in for this year, is that what we do on land impacts the ocean. What we do in the ocean impacts the land. And we need both. So even though we love to go to the beach and run in the waves and look out at that big blue expanse and just think it's so huge and it's out there, but it's not so huge. It's so important to us because, I don't know if you're aware, when you think about what we need for our life support, it's oxygen and water. Do you know where our oxygen comes from?
I'm gonna say I think it comes from trees and plants, but you're gonna tell me something differently, perhaps.
Well, the plant part and the trees is correct.
Yes.
But the plant part isn't. Only 50% is on land. The other 50% is the plankton in the water, in the oceans. So when we are creating acidified situation in the ocean and plankton cannot survive, we are actually cutting off 50% of our life support. The oxygen that's being made by those plankton that may struggle to survive, we're not going to have it. So the more that we put carbon and methane into the atmosphere, that is creating a carbonic acid that is acidifying the ocean and making that pH difficult for not only fish and shellfish to survive, but the plankton we are dependent on are having trouble.
It's interesting because here in New England, of course, we have the warmer ocean waters, which are bringing up the mammals, which are bringing up the sharks, which is what everybody is focused on, but also the plankton kill-off and the lack of that type of food source, which is moving the whales away from us, is indicative of what you're saying is something that we see it all the time, but we don't really connect all the dots. And there is a roadmap to what the issue is. We just have to keep our eyes open and actually look at it and say, oh, that's why, and that happens, and this happens, and here we are.
So Massachusetts has a lot of fishing cultures. So if you mess with the ocean, you're also messing with that fishing culture, that lifestyle, the restaurants. You start disturbing what we do for our own advantage or our quality of life. So it's actually in our interest to think about how can I minimize this impact. And you can use business, you can use government, you can do your own self. And those are the kind of conversations we like having at the foundation, to have those kind of open conversations. So there's no like, you're a bad business, or you're a bad government. We do the advocacy. But hey, have you thought about something else? This country over here is doing this. This community is doing this. This individual is doing this. Let's share from each other. And people feel a lot better. They're also empowered to have activities. And you have a kid, 16, 18 years old, and she's like, well, I have a profession in sustainability. I can go get a master's at, I'm going to do a shout out to Tufts because they came and supported us. Tufts University has a master's in water management.
He's a great treasurer. He knows exactly where it's working.
And we heard
now Tufts has to put their money where their mouth is.
But they came to an organization that we support, Net Impact, and we were learning there, and they announced this amazing master's degree program. And we had a couple of interns there, and they looked at us like, there's a master's degree in this? We're like, yeah.
Really?
But
you would have to think there would be, because as the science evolves to understanding that it's not all just, although it's a significant piece, coal-burning power plants, there's a lot more to the issue of global warming and to the poisoning of the seas than the cruise ships that dump the trash off famously said it's a big ocean. Well, it's a big ocean, but it's not that big. And so the science as it evolves needs to have people to lead that and take up the charge and make the difference.
So that's where things like, so number one, you'll see a slide about the themes of connecting land and sea, but also in terms of Boston GreenFest, which has become our sort of significant event that
this is called a segue, folks. You're going to like this.
that creates an opportunity for the larger community and for Boston and people from Foxboro and to connect with people in other parts of the country and the world and look at some best practices, but look at innovation. We also believe, even though we're talking about nature, which is really important, we can't dismiss we're building for the future so more people can live here, but we have to keep nature as part of that. But along with it, green technologies, innovation, those all play very large roles and can potentially enable us to help our natural world continue to be in sync with our human-made world. And so these are very important issues to look at, and to what extent robotics and VR, AR, AI, all these different things that are coming in from the tech world, how are they going to interact? How can they help us think about things in ways that are more efficient, less wasteful, and more human, where we can have more time with each other and not just,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. So what we're going to, and on your screen right now, you'll see there are some pictures of a past GreenFest. I think that's a 2018 GreenFest. So while we enjoy those, I'm going to remind everybody that we're speaking with the Brain Trust, Beverly Spence, the Secretary, Dr. Karen Weber, the Executive Director, and Shimon Warden, the Treasurer of the Foundation for a Greener Future. You can reach out to them directly at www.foundationforagreenfuture.org. That's their website, or you can go to info@foundationforagreenfuture.org. That's their email address, and you can learn all the information about this fine organization. They're a nonprofit organization, and as you heard, my friend Ms. Ward, actually, you were in the Navy also?
Yes,
right?
sir.
Thank you for your service. And what was
Thanks.
your rank?
I was trained in nuclear power.
Okay, interesting. And,
Yeah.
now we're talking green, which is, there's a report that came out now that says, nuclear power may not be all that bad as long as it's used.
Well, the material is breaking down anyway. The thing about what's concerning about nuclear power is that the materials you use to control the water, the primary water, which goes around the reactor, that's radioactive, and it stays that way for quite some time,
Right.
and it takes some time. But as far as like power generation, it's a hot rock that you put water on, that makes steam, that makes roundy. That's kind of like the first class. Sure. And you start learning what water management, water infrastructure is critical in the Navy. It's critical within our national defense. Many people don't know that the Department of Defense is, I think, the world's largest consumer of fossil fuels.
Really?
Yes, we consume a lot. So as that puts pressure, the Department of Defense is thinking of other ways. They're creating incentives. So there are SBIR grants, which is a funding grant mechanism that's at MIT and UMass Lowell and all these different schools for us to make that transition. So as we help, piggyback on what Karen was saying, innovation helps us to address these issues. So that it's not like separated between necessarily politics and business and academic
And economics.
and economics in your life. It's connected. The legacy organizations, they understood that. They built those things. So for us who are championing for us to go in a new direction, we need to create cohesive, connective that help people make the transition. Because if they're losing jobs and they're afraid of change.
Right. Well, that's the economic piece of it. And as you point out, you can't have one without the other because there's a reality. But at the same time, the reality is that something needs to be done. So take that challenge and make it into, I know that there's more light than marketing, but promote the fact that responsible corporate citizens, responsible environmental, wardens, and to do the right thing. And maybe that's the way to make that difference. What you're doing with the Foundation for a Green Future is spreading that word and sharing that information and educating us, right?
That's what we hope to be doing.
That's what we hope to be doing.
And
Fantastic.
actually, a lot of green is having this conversation. It's communication, because if people don't know what's going on, then we end up replicating our work. We end up thinking, oh, we have to start from scratch. But there's many things that are being done. How do we plug in? How do we make sure that Foxboro, it connects to the other communities, Boston, Worcester, that are making climate plans? How do we make sure that in terms of economics and our priorities, how do we come together and think about, this is a good place for these kinds of jobs. This works for this. How do we, where do we need the recycling? Where do we need green roofs? Where do we need a new solar farm?
Yeah.
And
that has to be one of the challenges, though, in that there's so many different communities. Each community has a different mindset, and all the elected officials, all the paid town employees, they come with their own agenda, and that's just the reality of life, and that's got to be a pretty big nut to hack at every day.
So that's our challenge,
So
right?
good for you. Wow. So let's talk about the Land and Sea this year with the Boston GreenFest.
So Boston GreenFest
Tell us about that,
has
Beverly.
been going on for 11 years.
So we have the 12th annual coming up
So
here
in
August 16th through the
August
18th of
16th.
2019.
So,
See how I got that in?
yes.
I'm pretty good at this.
So Boston GreenFest is a multicultural environmental music festival. Basically,
Music?
Music festival.
I
Yes,
love
it is.
music.
Who wants to be at a festival without music?
You know what? I hear you.
So it's to educate people about greening their lives, sustainability, and learning about different things that they can do to become energy efficient and educating them.
Okay.
But one of the things about Boston GreenFest, we have the music festival. We have performers from over 125 different countries. We also have a film fest to teach people about what people around the world are doing about environment, solar power, wind power, and how different communities are doing it with trying to spread the word about being sustainable and recycling. We also have an eco fashion show. We have eco art. We also have a forum talk, green forum talks as well. We have the Boston Green Business Breakfast, which we have invite different business to come and tell us what they're doing to promote sustainability within their company. And it's a very, we have a lot of kids activities that we have, and to show kids how they can do through art, how they can find out about different ways they can
Robots.
and they have the robots. We
Okay.
have the ponies. We have a lot of bungee jumps and everything.
Sounds like fun.
So it's like,
Oh, the
We should go.
The electric bikes.
What are
Yeah.
you doing in August?
Well, I take my kids and we get on the electric scooter. There's like the Bobby Big Wheel.
Yeah, really?
And there's one that's electric, and you just skid all over the place. It's fun. So
Oh, and we have
Can you
the
imagine if the expressway were still there? We could do that on
we
the
have the
ramps?
electric vehicles where people can try.
can ride and drive.
ride and
we
drive.
do test
Yeah,
ride.
that as well.
So we're
Test
really
ride.
going across the space, like as Bev was mentioning.
And Nissan did a great job last year. We have to throw that in.
Yeah. The fashion show,
We have
which
an
is one of my
eco-fashion
things,
show.
because fashion is another huge industry, and people don't think of it as
Well,
being
you
the potential
mentioned
being
the
green.
rayons and the microfibers.
And the
That's a
fashion show,
reality,
yeah.
and,
Right.
and if we're going to really, the old, joke is the wrong word, but the old about the environmental. I'm against killing animals, but they're wearing leather shoes and leather belts. So it's one of the things. Do you really understand what the issue is?
Well, in this case, what he is bringing forward is that there's a lot of energy intensive use that goes into making clothing,
Sure.
a lot of water, and a lot of toxic chemicals, because then you have all the dyes. And so we throw out so many tons and tons of clothing every year. The industry is so huge that even what we don't realize is when we put those clothes in a landfill, for example, all the toxic chemicals run into our groundwater, which get to the ocean. Just one example of what the industry is doing.
Sure.
And so many aspects to the textile industry we don't think about.
There's a lot of education. I think, as is true in any walk of life, there's just too much information for us to absorb. So we sort of live our life
Sound
in a
bites?
45-second soundbite. Exactly. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation, and I suppose that's what the point of the GreenFest is to educate while having fun.
Yeah, it's a good place for people to come in. So I was talking about GreenFest and some of our other programs like the Massachusetts Water Forum, and we have a new program coming up, or we just had recently. And I was telling this to my students. I was teaching a marketing class. And one of my students, who's amazing, you should hire him.
Another plug.
Yeah, the plug for Cliff. He's a phenomenal. He's also an intern, and he did a research. They don't donate to us, so I'm not going to mention their name, but a very good jean company that I'm most likely probably wearing right now.
Okay.
And they went to do, corporate citizenship, and they improved their water. But in making their water more efficient, they rethought their processes, and they became more profitable because they reduced their costs.
Sure.
So they had less impact on the environment. Their workers were more efficient, and they
impact
thought
on their pocket.
impact on their pocket, and they're like, "Oh, this is an all-around win." So it
possible
doesn't
to
have
have a
to.
big win-win,
Yeah, it
isn't it?
doesn't have to be punitive. It can be aspirational. You can make the world better And I think those type of wins are more sustainable because people will say, okay, I'm getting goodwill, I'm feeling good, I have some money in my pocket, I'm feeding my people, and okay, I'm willing to do this. And if it becomes always, you're a bad person, people start blocking you out.
People don't like being beat over the head all the time, right?
No,
Right.
sometimes it's okay.
Sometimes.
But we'll be nice to them when they do good things.
Well, we're also going to be nice to them. We're also going to be nice to them when they come out to the 2019 12th Annual GreenFest.
Yes.
And that's going to be held on August 16th through the 18th. You see on your screen the map. It's at the Rose Kennedy Greenway, right in the center of Boston. Plenty of parking in Boston, no problem there. Not like here in Foxboro. And that'll be, more details will be available on their website, www.bostongreenfest.org. They have a website devoted just to this event. It sounds like a lot of fun. You got the electric big wheels, you can drive an electric car, you can learn all about sustainable environmental responsibility and some new clothing products, I guess.
Absolutely.
All right.
All kinds of products.
All kinds of products.
Good ones.
But the most important thing is you can bring the family out
Yes.
and you can learn and have them learn about some really cool new things when it comes to environmental stewardship. So we are so close to being out of time. Of course, I'm going to give the executive director the last word. I want to remind everybody they can also reach out directly at info@bostongreenfest.org to get more information. Also, be their friend on Facebook. Follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Be a tweeter with them and go to LinkedIn as well, and you can get all this great information. Foundation for a Green Future. Why did you join?
I was very interested in the environment and what we can do to promote the environment and make it safe for the future. And I'm looking out for my daughter and my nieces and nephews to say, okay, I want the world to be a better place when they grow up. So
Is the Foundation for a Green Future making that difference?
that's what I hope to do. That's what we plan on doing.
Outstanding.
That's what we want to do.
Outstanding. The answer is yes, of course, Shimon. Give us the final word from the finance side. Are you looking for donations? How can we sustain the foundation? How can we, as viewers of Foxboro Central, be a part of this?
We would love to continue to make Boston GreenFest free because then everyone deserves that type of education to start a career, do a business, work on policy, do activities with the family.
I saw from the slide that there are thousands of volunteers.
Yeah, we've had thousands of volunteers.
Small venture. This is a
We
big
actually have
organization.
interns from around the world that come to study under Karen from how many countries at this point in time?
Probably over 50.
Wow.
Who
Okay.
come to learn, and we want to continue to have our impact and showcase Boston and Massachusetts and New England as a global leader in the space. So please come out and showcase your business. We would love to have you. Your agency, sponsor us directly, donate. We would love it, and if we can help you with your programming, we would love to do so as well.
Outstanding. And of course, if we want to get in touch with you, we can reach out to info@bostongreenfest.org, and that'll get to you?
Yes. Yes,
Outstanding. Nancy, thank you so much for being here. So
this
tell us
has been
again,
great.
what is the final message and what do you want us to walk away from this program knowing?
Well, we want to know that we love everybody who is a part of Foxboro Cable Access, and
Shameless plug, and we'll take that. Thanks, Brandon.
all the viewers out
We
there.
love that, so that's good.
We're all connected. And
And this is where I'm supposed to say, we love everybody from Foundation for a Green Future, because we're all connected and it's one globe, it's one world, right?
that's right. And so let's make it the best we can, especially with this holiday season. We think about green, we're putting trees into our homes, we're putting light into our homes. We want to continue that. And so just every decision you make, whether it's with your pocket or whether it's with your heart and your mind, just think about your children, think about the planet we live on, think about the fact that we need that water and oxygen, and what can we do a little bit differently each day to make that better for everyone.
Thank you. Dr. Karen Weber, thank you so much for being with us. The Executive Director of Foundation for a Green Future.org, as well as Beverly Spence. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having
And
us.
Shimon Ward, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for joining us. And one final reminder that we all want to go to the 12th Annual GreenFest. It's going to be held in Boston, right in the center there, and hit the north end for some for some good food, and then come back out and do some more, because they're going to be there on August 16th through August 18th, 2019. Rain or shine, it's going to be fun. It's also going to be an educational opportunity to bring the kids. It's going to be a great experience for them. You can reach out to them now, get on their mailing list, and make sure that you're following them on Facebook, Twitterverse, Instagram. I'm not a Twitterer, but I try. LinkedIn at bostongreenfest.org, or also follow them www.foundationforagreenfuture.org. A very important organization, a very important event, and it'll be a wonderful time for all of us to be at. We are so out of time. I wish we had more, but we don't. Until next time, Foxboro, have a great day.